Hello and welcome back, guys. Today I'm giving you my top 5 baits for salmon fishing. So stay tuned till the end because you don't want to miss my number 1. And number 5 is spoons. Spoons! Once I tried the Japanese made quality spoons, the ones that are made specifically for red fish catching and for stream fishing, I was impressed. And I can tell you, you at least need to have few of those in your bag. Don't go very blank, choose brighter colors. I suggest you get one spoon that's around 20-25 grams for those really long casts and for faster stream, because it won't work properly in slower streams. There's a lot of situations when you can see a fish really far away and you cannot reach it with a jerk bait. The drift of your bait isn't that accurate in those long distances and fish rarely bites it. But I mean, if you have a spoon and you see the fish, that might be the only one fish you see all day. It's better to have at least small chance catching it than no chance at all. This autumn I had 3 bites on a spoon, and that was very unusual for me because I never fished with spoons that much before. And I heard a lot of other stories that particularly this autumn people had a lot of bites on spoons. I don't know if that's a coincidence or anything else, but that's the story. Number 4, a new bait in our market. It's a Bassday sugar minnow, 85 millimeters. All of the baits are same size, no different variations. All of them are suspenders. As much as I know, these baits were designed specifically for Lithuanian anglers with one species in mind, that being salmon. It has a long casting system. It doesn't go as far as other baits I'll show you, but it goes very accurate and it's easy to hit the target with this bait. Downsides of these baits, well, they are losing color pretty fast because the hooks are scratching the size of the bait. It says on the box that it has owner hooks, but I felt they are a little bit too soft for me, so I changed them to owner 3X hooks. These are the ones you want to get. I fished with it just for a few days and I had one bite that was a good fish. Sadly it got away, but it proves that the bait works, and new salmon baits doesn't come out that often, so I'm really excited using it and I think it's a great bait. Number 3, the infamous Timon or Jackal Timon. This bait is probably the best known in Lithuania because everyone who fishes salmon has at least one of it, and in many cases they have a bunch of them. Probably one of the best casting hard lures there is. There is new colors coming every year, from very smooth looking kind of naturals to super screaming really bright ones. And also this bait comes in floating and sinking version. The sinking version flies even further, but it doesn't work as good. It is a little bit heavier, and if the stream is a little bit slower, you need to twitch the bait a little bit for it to work better. If the stream is really fast, it will work, no problem. But the floating version is working a little bit better in a slower streams. If I don't need the range, I will always choose floating version. And this bait also comes in a lot of different sizes. The most popular one is 88 millimeters, and floating version, it goes from very small to this 88 millimeters. Downsides of these baits, it seems like every year this bait is getting more attention, there's more sales, and the quality is going down a little bit. You hear more stories about the tongues getting ripped off, or the bait is breaking in the back end because the long cast system is hitting the back every cast and it just breaks in half. It loses paints quite fast unless you use a single hook. That's a good solution. This bait is so popular not without the reason. It's one of the best casting bait and it really works. Fish do mind these baits in their territory and they do attack them. Number dos. Probably the second most known bait in, at least in Lithuanian market for salmon fishing, is Jackson Rogos. This bait has a little bit different looks from the usual minnows, and it has a little bit different shaped lip on the front. And this bait is super handy when you're fishing in slower streams. You see, if you want to catch salmon or sea trout, the number one thing you have to do is to keep the bait as long as possible in front of the fish nose. The longer the fish sees the bait, the more aggressive it gets, and there is a bigger chance it will bite it. And when the stream is slower, these other baits doesn't work in that slow stream that well. You need to reel them in a little bit. That means you're pulling your bait away from the spot where the fish is standing fast and the fish is seeing the bait for a shorter periods of time. Jackson Rogos works in a slow stream perfectly. The downside for it is a fast stream. You cannot cast it at 45 degrees angle and hold it in fast stream because the stream will spit it out. It has too much aggression in its work. But in those slower streams, that is amazing bait. It comes in two sizes. It comes actually in three sizes, but the smaller one is only good for trout, the small trout fishing. Of course, you can try to catch sea trout with it in the winter when the sea trout is feeding a little bit. For salmon and sea trout, I'm using only the 80 millimeters. That's my favorite. And there is also 105 millimeters, the Big Daddy. I don't like casting it. It feels a little bit ruggish, and I just have it because fish sometimes wants a little bit bigger bait for I don't know what reason. Again, the downsides, you need to change the hooks as on pretty much every bait. The paint is scraping off pretty fast. It feels like the quality is getting worse of these baits. I don't know if that's true, but I had 3 or 4 of them broken and they were pretty much new. I just hit the bottom just a little bit and the lip fell off. I'm using one for my keys as a keychain. One more thing about this bait, you need a little bit of practice with it. It doesn't have a long casting system, but it has a weight inside. It's fixed in one position and it has a good casting abilities. It's not perfect, but it flies pretty far. You cannot use this bait in a fast stream at 45 degrees angle, but what you can do in a fast stream with it, you can cast it right in front of you at 90 degrees angle and put your line in a loop with the current, and the current will take your line and your line will drive this bait. It's almost like fishing with a fly. Now, numero uno, my favorite bait for salmon fishing, and that is, drumroll, deep feet. This bait is fantastic. I cannot stress this enough. The best is the deep version. It has a downside of going deeper than other baits, and here in Lithuania we don't have that much depth in our rivers. 1.5 meters is the basic depth in most of the salmon spots, and 1.5 meters is starting point for this bait. If there is a possibility of using this bait, I'm using it. I'm spending 90% of my time casting this bait, and if it doesn't work and I know the fish is sitting in that spot, then I'll change some bait. But 90% of the time I'm using the Daiwa deep feed. It has a perfect movement for salmon. I don't know why that movement drives those fish so mad, but it does. And these are all hand painted also, so paint on these baits sticks very good and it lasts way longer than on other baits. Hooks are pretty good. What I do, I use those hooks for one fish. If I have a bait from Daiwa and I hooked a salmon with it, I'll change my hooks after that fish. But until the first fish, those hooks are okay. The bottom hook is on a swivel and it turns on the bait, so the fish will not break it off or from their face. That is very good. This bait has the best casting abilities from the baits I mentioned, and there's a little bit of learning curve how to cast it, but when you get used to that, it will reach your destination for sure. The MD version is also very good. It's not as good as 90D, but it has, again, a very good and stable work. You need just a little bit faster current, or you need to twitch those baits just a little bit, ever so slightly, in like every 3 or 5 seconds. So if the conditions allows me, I'll always starting with the Daiwa deep feed. That's my favorite bait. So guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope you found at least one new bait that you haven't heard about or you haven't tried yet. I encourage you to try, because the winter season is already here and it's supposed to be a good one. Leave me a comment below what is your favorite baits for salmon and sea trout fishing. Maybe I haven't tried some of those, so I would really like to. If you like this video and you found it helpful and interesting, maybe you can leave me a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, just click the subscribe button. Stay tuned for more videos and I'll see you soon. Peace!